Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Sugar Mama's Fireplay, the podcast that ignites your financial journey with inspiring stories, innovative strategies. I am your host, financial planner, Canna Campbell. Now, as always, I must remind you of my general advice warning and my financial planning license details. Please know that this episode, along with every single other episode that you may listen to, is always general in nature and for educational purposes only. All right, with that out of the way, let us begin because I want to share with you my results from doing Frugal February. So as you guys know, every year I do Frugal February, which is where I am the world's biggest tight ass for the month of February. And all the money that I save, I put towards the $1,000 project, which is a diversified Australian share portfolio. And when I say Australian, it's actually got a pile of listed investment companies and, of course, international ETFs in there as well. But my point is I use my frugality proactively. So where I save money, I would then transfer it towards this savings account. And when that savings account balance hits $1,000, I go and invest it in my portfolio. Now, I've been doing this Frugal February challenge for 8 years. And actually, maybe even 9 years. This is how long Sugar Mama's been going. But my point is, by actually proactively transferring those savings by being frugal and being the world's biggest tight ass, I actually make those savings count because so many of us, we might save money, but then we end up spending it somewhere else. It just kind of evaporates and we never really actually get ahead. So this is about mindfully, proactively capturing those savings, quarantining them, and then proactively and intentionally putting that money towards an important financial goal of ours. Now, I've been doing Frugal February for many, many years, and it's something that I've kind of felt like I've outgrown because I'm actually not someone who is frugal as such. I'm someone who's more mindful with money. However, I have always loved the fact that this challenge has always kind of regrounded me. It's been really good for my soul. It's allowed me to see what I really appreciate. It's recalibrated me, especially after the back of, say, Christmas and New Year's, where we tend to be shopping in the sales and we've spent a whole pile of money on Christmas presents and, maybe outfits and alcohol and all those sorts of fun, fabulous, but sometimes financially toxic things in our lives. So I've always, appreciated that element of frugality and the Frugal February challenge. However, last year, as you guys know, it was just a disaster. It made me realize that Frugal February is potentially gone. It's something of my past, or I've outgrown it and it needed to evolve because I was essentially, the more frugal I tried to be, the more it backfired, the more problems and dramas and expenses that seemed to just pop out of nowhere. And it all happened in this month of February. So after getting a huge amount of feedback from you guys, which I'm so incredibly grateful, and this was all through Instagram. So thank you, everyone. You guys actually recommended it was time to not get rid of Frugal February because it is a fun challenge and it is really good for the soul, but to maybe shift my mindset by changing the name. And I put out a vote and everyone settled on Fruitful Frugal February. And as a bit of a joke, I say with Michael Thompson from my other podcast, How Do They Afford That? We call the fruitful for me is silent. So it's really Fruitful February now. And the whole purpose behind this was, as I said, changing my mindset and my attitude towards frugality. Now, what fruitful means is it's really about, focusing on long-term savings and sustainable savings. Just like you plant seed to grow into a fruit tree, call it an apple tree. You plant that seed not just to get apples for 1 year, but you plant that seed to grow into a tree that's going to provide apples year after year after year, where each year you can harvest the tree, pick all the apples off, and a year later, all those beautiful apples are back there again. And that's, changing that mindset. So the fruitfulness. And I also have to say that in doing this, it felt really right going to this name of Fruitful February. Now, how did I go with Fruitful February this year? Well, it was interesting. Changing the name was definitely had a big impact on me in my mindset and in my attitude. You see, previously I was starting to become really resentful of Frugal February. As January would click in, I'd get this feeling knowing that you've got to go to see a dentist that, oh, it's coming, I'm going to have to do this. And it kind of goes against mindfulness and balance in life. So shifting this definitely helped. Now, what I'm going to do is share with you a bit of a brain dump as to what happened, what I did, and how much I saved. And I want to share with you, most importantly, what I learned from doing Fruitful February. So as I always do, I left no stone unturned. I made so many phone calls, and I am so glad I made these phone calls because they instantly paid off, not just necessarily financially, but knowledge-wise. So one of the first phone calls I made was to our gas and energy provider. Now, instantly I saved about $120 per month. Now, I call these guys every single year, so I was not expecting to be able to save that much money, and it was so quick and easy. So a hack that I'm going to share with you for people who want to sort of have a look at their budgets and saving some money is go and save in your phone your energy and gas provider, their 1-800 number. And also in the notes against that contact, go and save your account number. So that means it's very easy for you to go and make this call while on the go. So literally when I was on the phone to the energy and gas company, I was actually driving through, safely of course through Bluetooth technology, but I was on the phone to my energy provider driving through the Sydney Harbour Tunnel, saving that money. And it was a way of, I guess, really efficiently using my time because I was running towards school pickup and also saving money along the way. Also during Fruitful February, I'm going to call it, I stayed at home as I normally do, but I would normally come and go into a complete hermit mode where I'd not really see anyone, become very antisocial, which for me previously was really good for my soul. But this time I made sure that I did spend more time at home, but I did it in a very financially friendly way, but included an element of social skills, which sounds probably not the right word, but I had a lot of people over to my house to catch up instead of meeting up at a restaurant or meeting up at a cafe, or we'd go for a walk instead. I really made sure that I kept my social circles going because I think part of my resentment from the past was being too much of a social hermit, too inclusive. I probably lost my sense of balance previously during Frugal February, just staying at home. So that was really good for me to actually realize, yes, you can have a social life and have it, in financial harmony. The other thing I did, which was another learning curve for me, was I did initially a no spend challenge. Now, this was actually backfired. It wasn't particularly frugal. And I realized that no spend for me challenges I find really fake. When I see people doing no spend challenges, I sort of question the authenticity or the honesty behind it, because for a lot of people to actually genuinely do a no spend challenge, they need to have gone and bought a whole pile of stuff beforehand, or they do the no spend challenge and then it backfires on them when they do this rebellious, excessive spending afterwards. Now, for me, I tried to do a no spend challenge, but I realized actually this is not what I'm about. And if this is about being fruitful, I need to go into the supermarket and buy fruit and vegetables. I need to go and pay these bills. I need to buy myself a coffee because I'm having a crap day and I need to put my feet up again and get on with life. And that $5 coffee is actually going to give me the energy to get through my day. So I realized for me, a no spend challenge is really a bit of a shallow strategy. And I don't say that to judge anyone that does no spend challenges, but I just want to be open and transparent with you. The other thing that happened during our Fruitful February is we randomly had house guests, and we had lots of house guests. And with the exception of, I think, of maybe 2 days, we had people staying with us. So we had people literally eating us out of house and home pretty much every single day, morning and night. So whilst I'm trying to be as frugal or fruitful as possible, we also had lots of extra mouths to feed most days. So that was definitely a challenge. Now, the other thing that also happened during Fruitful Frugal February is a couple of things echoed from last year. So last year, the biggest expenses were major water damage to our house, and both our dogs got sick, and sick for different reasons. Now, weirdly, these things happened again. So during the month of February, we discovered we have more water damage in a different part of the house. And yes, that was a not as big a bill, but definitely took another dent into our emergency money to help quickly fix this before it became a problem and we had even more black mold created. So that happened again. Also, Giuseppe got incredibly sick. He got an autoimmune disease triggered, and he basically couldn't move anything in his body without being in extreme pain. He was in an emergency vet for 5 or 6 days. It was very touch and go. It was incredibly stressful. So we definitely had, you could say, a very colourful and busy month for Frugal Fruitful February. So I had those challenges, but I can proudly share with you, I saved over $480 that month. And I was also able to increase our regular savings plan by $129 per month from the phone call I made to Foxtel, our gas company, and our energy provider. Now, I know you might be thinking, gosh, so what, $129 per month? Well, that's actually a lot of money because that money is going to go towards our mortgage and help pay off our mortgage a lot sooner. And I put up a grid on Instagram showing you the impact of an extra $129 per month and the tens of thousands of dollars in interest that saves and how much time that saves. So please don't ever turn your nose up on thinking about small savings because those small savings really do add up and they came from three main sources. And when you proactively apply them to a goal, which one of ours is obviously paying off our home loan, it really does pay off. And that 10-minute phone call was well worth it, especially when I look at the potential savings that come off our home loan. I also, as I mentioned, was able to save about $480. Now, the bulk of this actually came from our grocery bill. Now, this really surprised me that I was able to save so much because we had nonstop guests staying with us. And just for the record, these people who were staying with us were family and friends, so we did not expect them to contribute towards our grocery bill. So I actually was surprised I was able to actually save that much. And doing things like cooking in bulk, creating a whole pile of food, putting it in the freezer into individual portions really made a big difference. But also delaying going to the supermarket. I can't go to the supermarket and just grab a pint of milk. I have to go to the supermarket and grab a chocolate bar, some biscuits, some snacks for the kids, and, there you go, $60 gone. So I actually avoided going to the supermarket as much as possible, and I really focused on eating up everything in our pantry and fridge and freezer before going to the supermarket. Now, this was brilliant because it actually helped me keep the pantry, fridge, and freezer a lot more organized, which actually felt so much more aesthetically appeasing when I opened up the cupboards and drawers to see everything actually now looking a lot neater. And also to maintain that neatness is so much easier with less stuff in there. But at one stage, I was able to stretch out our grocery shop by up to a week. So that was a huge savings. And also going back to the simplicity of some easy, clean eating more salads, eating more vegetables, having more meat-free meals, less fish, really actually brought down our food bill quite dramatically. And, when you're cooking in bulk and you're sharing it, cooking a batch and that serves for dinner one night and the night after was great. And I also got some fantastic recipes from you guys that you sent to me with really financially friendly, fast meals to make for my kids. And I've actually shared online the very financially friendly tacos that we make as a family that actually can serve for up to 3 dinners following after with this amazing Coles beef brisket. So definitely go and check out that reel because it's so delicious and also a great way of getting a lot of vegetables into our children. So as in essence, with having non-stop house guests, I was still able to save $480, which I think is a lot of money. That's almost half my way of being able to buy another set of parcel of $1,000 of shares, $129 per month. This was actually not that hard. And for the record, it's not like we have this extravagant budget, where, this actually is a very small amount of our money. No, we, like many families, we're on a very tight budget right now. We've had interest rate rises. We've had very big unexpected expenses with the house. So my situation is not sort of fortunate or particularly luxurious at all. My budget is very, very similar to a lot of Australian households. But this is what I want to share with you in today's episode. It's about what I learned from Fruitful, Frugal February. So the first thing I learned was being frugal is great, but it's only great in short blocks. And when you apply those short blocks to short-term goals, being frugal is not sustainable. What is actually better for your financial goals is being consistently mindful. When you are consistently mindful, there are so many more positive emotions that come from this. It brings in way more respect. It brings in greater gratitude for what you've got and what you're actually doing for yourself. You feel so much prouder. There's also a greater sense of freedom, or you could say lightness, in being mindful rather than frugal. The word frugal in itself has a feeling of scarcity and lack of, which doesn't feel nice. But when you think about being mindful, mindful is about empowering you to make choice and being free to make those choices and having an element of lightness because you have this awareness to say no to what you don't want and yes to what you do want, which always makes us feel great. And also I would say that being mindful brings in an element of endurance in a successful way, particularly when you're working on a financial goal that is important to you and allows not just growth financially, but growth personally as well. So that's the first thing I learned from doing Fruitful Frugal February. The second thing that I learned is that your sense of frugality or your frugal skill set really gets tested and pushed and goes under immense stress when you're under stress. So as I mentioned, Giuseppe got really sick during literally the halfway mark of Frugal February, and it was horrendous. He was so unwell, and we were in emergency vets. His bill actually came to, I think when I add all the bills up, it's just over $17,000, and in pet insurance paid $11,000 of that, which was great. But the flow-on effect from this was, I completely underestimated, and I never would have thought about this beforehand. But with what was that 5-6 days where Giuseppe was so sick and in just literally 24-hour care in the emergency vet, I couldn't work. I was so anxious. I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. I struggled with keeping up with time. I was also incredibly time poor. Tom was over in Hong Kong at the time. He had to fly home early. And we were literally doing tag team. Tom would come home from work and try and come home work early so I could race to the emergency vet and go and spend an hour with him lying on the ground of this emergency vet hospital, cuddling him, patting him, reassuring that everything is going to be okay. And we really had to lean on our community to help us get through this. We had to have a friend that would come over and actually had to help me get Giuseppe into the back of my car because he's a big, heavy Labrador, and come with me to the vet and literally hold my hand while we explained to the vet what was going on and help me understand all the information, understand all the medication and all the different options. Being frugal was the last thing I really wanted to do or even really cared about. So being in a stressful or even you could say, semi-traumatic situation, frugality is just that you really get pushed backed into a corner. And there was a moment where I was like, do I just throw this challenge in for the month and just get through what's going on? And I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. But it did make me realize being frugal and going through a very stressful situation don't necessarily go in harmony. You may want to be frugal, but maybe you need to pick the timing that's right for you, where being frugal is actually going to work for you rather than being frugal in a stressful situation if you want to do a challenge like this. And of course, there are people who are in stressful situations and are being frugal. I understand that. But if you're doing this as a challenge by choice, make sure you're at the right mindset and situation to be able to make the most of being frugal. The third thing that I realized is that applying gratitude to frugality was brilliant. You see, as I mentioned, changing the term of Frugal February to Fruitful Frugal February or just Fruitful February really improved my mindset. Maybe in the past, if I'd had as many house guests stay with us during February, I actually probably would have been really resentful and frustrated, and I maybe would have asked them to even maybe contribute towards the cost, which I would never do, but it could have potentially brought out a bad side of me. But for me, having a sense of gratitude from being fruitful was game-changing. Not once did I care about the grocery bill. Yes, I was aware of the bill growing, and there was one weekend where I think we spent $700 on food. But when I came back to being grateful to have great friends, being grateful to be able to offer a home or a room for our friends, being grateful to have family that would come and stay with us, being grateful for the sense of community, being grateful for friendship, being grateful for connection, that frustration or resentment that sometimes is attached to being frugal, and that sense of control evaporated completely. I didn't care. I was just happy to have everyone in our home, and I'm someone who's funny with my space. So this was really a really big, awareness and breakthrough for me. And also with pet insurance. Yes, pet insurance covered $11,000 of the $17,000 total bill, but I'm so grateful we had pet insurance. I would never question pet insurance. If someone said to me, do you think it's worth it? 100%. And I'm, for the record, especially with Giuseppe, I am way ahead financially with pet insurance. So I am so grateful to have pet insurance. I'm also so incredibly grateful that we lived near an emergency vet, that we were able to access amazingly care-kinding vet nurses and doctors that had their own contacts in certain areas that specialized in, the type of autoimmune disease that Giuseppe had activated. So, I never begrudged the money that we lost in having to pay the gap with the pet insurance. And also, even with the house, I'm grateful for the fact that we caught the new water damage before it got any worse. and any more expensive and started to become toxic again like it had in the past. Yes, it was frustrating seeing emergency money dip down again, but I have this greater sense of lightness, and that's what I said from changing that name. The fourth thing that I realized, and I'm grateful for and learned from doing Fruitful Frugal February, and apologies I keep jumping from Fruitful February to Fruitful Frugal February, but this is the power of asking. There is nothing to be lost by asking. Asking if you can have a better deal, asking if you can get a better rate, asking if there is a better plan or a better option available, or are there ways that you can tweak and change your policy to save some money. Nothing lost and so much gained. That $129 per month to me is a huge amount of money on a regular basis. And that's, you think, oh, $129, no big deal. Well, times that by 12 and then times that by 10. That's a lot of money to save. I'd rather that money in my pocket than my energy providers or my bank's pocket. So, as I said, put all your utility providers, all your service providers' numbers in your phone with your account number, so it's really easy to do a 6-monthly check and to see if there's a better plan in there. And I have to say, I know we've spoken about this in the past with Adam from Blue Lantern about refinancing or asking your bank for a better deal. We do have a bit of a block. We build it up in our head to be something way harder than what it really is. And the moment we've made that call and we're talking to someone, we're like, actually, this is very simple. We just want a better deal. And we are well within our right to ask for a better deal. So the power of asking. If you're thinking about, should I really do it? Is it worth it? 100% yes. Go and make those calls. And you can do it so easily. Just pop some AirPods in while you're typing at your desk or on the bus on the way to work, or even if you're at the gym on the treadmill. You can do this as long as you can use your mouth. You can ask for a better deal. And then the fifth and final thing that I learned from doing Fruitful Frugal February is that savings is great, but investing, if you want to get ahead financially and you do want financial freedom and to retire early, you need to be investing. You see, that $480 that I managed to save, yes, it is going towards a home loan. I would normally actually put this towards the $1,000 project and buy some more shares. But what I'm going to be doing this time next year is any money that I create from doing Fruitful Frugal February, I'm going to be putting towards the power of borrowing to invest. You see, that $480, yes, it's going to our mortgage this year, but next year, if I do manage to save the same amount, that $480 actually represents the opportunity, if I want, after considering, of course, all my risks and costs involved, but it actually represents the ability to go and borrow between $5,000 to $8,000 because I can prepay the interest on something like a margin loan or an investment loan, which means I can then add another $5,000 to $8,000 worth of shares to the $1,000 project portfolio, which for the record is sitting at about $275,000. So when you use savings to get out of debt, that's brilliant, that's great. But there becomes a point where you can actually use those savings to help build wealth and grow wealth. And that might be through investing, or it might be one level up where you're using it to help borrow to invest. Borrow to invest in a smart, intelligent way that factors in all the risks and also allows you to factor in a proactive risk management strategy beforehand. And of course, making educated decisions when it comes to that underlying investment. But the power of $480 really represents so much more. It represents the ability to be able to buy $5,000 to $8,000 worth of more investments for that portfolio. And no, this is not advice to go and look at a debt recycling strategy or borrowing to invest. I want to make you aware, I guess mindfully aware, of the power of savings and the power of proactively doing something intelligent, financially intelligent with those savings when they're applied towards one of your financial goals and dreams. So where is Frugal February going? Well, it is going to stay, and it's going to be either Fruitful Frugal February or just Fruitful February. But I will be making some changes because I did sort of get a little bit exhausted, and I don't know if that was because of Giuseppe or whether it was just maybe me outgrowing this particular monthly challenge, but I'm going to be shortening it. It's either going to be a 10-day challenge or it's going to be a 21-day challenge. I'm also going to really focus on fast and efficiency. I did find that Fruitful Frugal February dragged on a bit and I lost momentum myself, and I'm sure a lot of people will say the same as well. So we're going to really focus on, I guess, knocking it off quickly and efficiently. And I'm also going to be using, as I said, the next round from doing this particular challenge to use that money to prepay an investment loan for the $1,000 project so I can actually increase my ability to purchase more passive income streams through Australian shares. So that, in a nutshell, is how I went with Fruitful, Frugal February. I would love to hear from you as to how much money you saved, where you found those savings, so that I can share that with absolutely everyone else. And of course, I would love to hear what your financial goals and dreams are and what you've been achieving, what you've been ticking off, and how your financial journey is going yourself. I love these DMs when they come in, and it's so exciting. It's so empowering. It's also so motivating reading your feedback and hearing your stories. But in the meantime, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, until next Monday morning at 5 a.m., stay motivated, empowered, and never stop seeking new ways to achieve your financial goals and dreams, no matter how big or how small. This is Sugar Mama's Fireplate. Ciao for now.